Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. We will not support negligence. Prime Minister gives warning to financial institutions. Who spoke first? Opposition leader and Constitutional Affairs Minister to set a Constitutional Reform Committee spat privately. And later in sports, WADA is seeking to improve anti-doping operations in the region. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has hit back at critics over the time he took to comment on the multi-million-dollar fraud at Stocks and Securities Limited, SSL. For almost 2 weeks, the fraud has dominated headlines locally and across global media. But Mr. Holness said he only wanted to address the matter when he had received the facts. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has been facing backlash for his delay in commenting on the fraud case involving over 40 investors, including Sprint legend Usain Bolt. The opposition and other quarters of society have questioned whether or not the delayed response was in a bid to cover up information. But Mr. Holness says not so.
There was this query as to why I didn't jump out with a statement immediately. It's simply because I have a duty that when I speak, the information that I provide must be unassailable. And that means you have to take time to verify. But we saw in the interim that some persons had a field day with misinformation. And I wonder what was the motive for that. It was almost gleeful celebration.
The Prime Minister, like his Finance Minister, Dr. Nigel Clark, is adamant that those who are implicated in the fraud case must be brought to book. He says an example must be set that crimes of this nature are not accepted in the country.
The government will not socialize any debt, and we will not socialize the failure of our banks to be prudential and to protect their customers. Were we to do that, it would send a very bad signal to the banks and investment houses that they can be negligent and expect the bank to cover their negligence. That will not happen.
Mr. Holness was speaking at the Jamaica Stock Exchange's 18th Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference on Tuesday night. Meanwhile, Mr. Holness has reiterated calls for Jamaicans to get their information from verified sources. Speaking at the opening of the Jamaica Stock Exchange's 18th Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference on Tuesday, he said there could be serious economic implications due to misinformation.
If actors in the sector or a common person is misinformed and consumes information that is incorrect, information that is false and misleading, it could impact the way in which economic actors make their financial decisions and create a crisis that does not need to exist. Now, were it only a political market at risk, I would brush it aside and say par for the course. But there is our national asset at risk by this kind of behavior. Our financial market is a regional leader. It gives Jamaica a competitive advantage, and we must protect it at all costs.
In the meantime, Chairman of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Julian Mayer, says the SSL fraud case has eroded trust in Jamaica's financial sector. However, with the BOJ having more control of the financial sector, Mr. Mayer says he's cautiously optimistic.
I'll tell you that the exciting thing is, change is scary. Change is also an opportunity. But the transition from where we are now to the Twin Peaks regulatory model, which sees the Bank of Jamaica assume a much more dominant role across the financial sector. I'm cautiously optimistic that the growth of the sector will continue to be strong, stable, and will remain the home for creativity in solving the funding and investment needs of clients. The truth is that experts at the BOJ are more than capable to assume the roles that they've been tasked with.
The tit-for-tat between the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs and the opposition leader over correspondence regarding the establishment of the Constitutional Reform Committee continued in Parliament yesterday. However, as Sandy Williams reports, the matter may be settled soon.
First, it was who approached who for the establishment of the Constitutional Reform Committee. Leader of the opposition Mark Golding insists that he sent a letter to Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs Marlene Malahoo Fort on June 3, 2022, with a follow-up on June 22, 2022. Mr. Golding says he did not get a response from the minister until 7 months after, on January 5, 2023.
The statement is plainly false. He did not begin the series of correspondence. And I should say that I did not receive any follow-up letter on June 2022. If he sent it, I didn't receive it. And I checked at my office and they said it was not received. But that aside, Madam Speaker, just to set the record straight, the correspondence between the leader of the opposition and me on this matter began with my letter to him of May 31, 2022.
Then in Parliament on Tuesday, it was who disrespected who.
When I replied to that response in January, the minister came here and berated me in no uncertain terms. And I felt and I still feel that it was necessary to bring to the attention of the country how that correspondence had unfolded and the disrespect with which I had been treated by her.
Mr. Golding says in his quest to get clarity on certain matters, such as what are the specific changes to be made in the Charter of Fundamental Rights, he was again berated by the minister.
And I just want to read one sentence that the minister put in her letter to me. She says to me, "Should you persist in your refusal or delay, you will force me to invite interested parliamentarians from your side to come on board." Now I tell you, I don't know how you want to embark on a process, a collaborative process, making remarks like that.
First of all, Madam Speaker, let me just say to the leader of the opposition, it was never my intention to berate you. And if you felt berated, please accept my apology. That was not my intention.
Concerns have been raised in the past about the failure of the government and opposition to reach a consensus on a number of issues of national importance. However, in the end, both Mrs. Malahoo Fort and Mr. Golding agreed to settle the matter in private. Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
The administration of the Homestead Primary and Infant School in St. Catherine is working to repair the school's image following recent disruptions, including a protest against the principal's stewardship and a viral video of a grade 3 student stoning a classroom. The new board chairman outlined his plans as the education minister toured the school Monday morning. Now, Krista Campbell reports.
A new board chairman at a school marred by negative publicity in recent time who says the administrators are working on repairing the institution's image. Mark McLean says the one viral incident of a grade 3 student throwing a stone into a classroom at the Homestead Primary and Infant School in St. Catherine has given the false impression that there's a major issue with indiscipline there. However, he says for the indiscipline that does exist, a mentorship program has been launched.
You know, we're in an inner city. Child hear a lot of things I would. So them come to school and feel like the same thing. You have to let him know school is school. What you can say what you can do at school, you can do at the road. So we are putting in some things that can make it better for the school and a better for the kids. You have visitor come now, you see, you find 2-3 child come to you. Welcome to Homestead, and they give you the little matzo and those little things. We are instilling those discipline. We are making it mandatory now.
And while the Education Ministry works on improving the relationship between the principal, teachers, parents and students, Minister Favour Williams says she's pleased that the school at least has a good foundation for academic performance.
My understanding of the teaching and learning that's happening here is that their scores are better than the national average. So we have to encourage the students, and as long as we have this environment where the adults who are in the space, where they're able to relate on a professional basis with each other, I think we're going to see wonderful things happening here.
As for the upcoming primary exit profile PEP exams,
we have early morning classes. They come in at 7:30 a.m. and then transition into regular classes at 8:30. And they do extra classes 4 days for the week and on Saturday morning. So we're 90, and we have been doing the up and down some practice. So we're 98% ready.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
And just a correction, the Education Minister toured the Homestead Primary and Infant School yesterday. That's Tuesday. And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. The Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, in Westmoreland is taking steps to mitigate against feed shortage in the parish. A few weeks ago, President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, JAS, Lenworth Fulton, said there could be a shortage of chicken meat and eggs stemming from the feed crisis last month. Deputy Parish Agricultural Manager Dwayne Josephs say the impact is being seen in Westmoreland. However, the team has implemented strategies to prevent a repeat of feed shortage, which led to production loss.
Our farmers expanding their production into corn, as well as to have those who feed other substitute, they can expand that as well. We want to, for instance, introduce, the feed for those who depend on concentrate as relates to from the major input suppliers for goats and cattle as well. We want them to revert back to pasture rearing.
He says one farmer has already expressed interest in corn production and is about to start the process. Meanwhile, Mr. Joseph says there is adequate crop production in the parish, but harvesting is another issue and RADA is dealing with that also.
Post-harvest management is an issue, as well as value-added production is also an issue. So if we can introduce or to bring the business side of it across to the commerce of the Westmoreland business community, then I think we can satisfy the need of our local citizens.
The opposition People's National Party, PNP, is calling for the long overdue local government election to be held this year. Opposition leader Mark Golding cited years of delays due to the pandemic, which was pardoned on the basis of public health safety. But he says now the party is wondering what's happening.
We've heard nothing. We want to know on what basis it would be, if it is not going to be held, we want to know why. And we do not see any basis upon which it should be further postponed.
He says the PNP has been preparing for years and any more delays would be a disadvantage to the people of Jamaica.
And there are many divisions in which there is no sitting councillor for one reason or another. Some councillors have died, some were elected to Parliament in the last general election, and so on. So it's not fair for those residents of those divisions not to have their elected councillor in place to look about their business. So it is important that we have this local election.
And it's now time for the Business Minute.
Dollar Financial says it's on path with its growth trajectory. The financial institution now has 10 branches in Jamaica and 1 branch in Guyana. Its CEO, Kadeen Mears, says the focus is on expanding services regionally.
To know that our intention is always to expand across the Caribbean. So we're looking at the Eastern Caribbean, we're looking at Bahamas, we're looking at Turks and Caicos, and we're looking for opportunities where we can, apply for money lending licenses in these regions and in time expand the business in that way.
Dollar Financial has also begun looking in the diaspora to extend services to Washington, D.C. and New York. In business overseas, Amazon workers are staging the first ever UK strike on Wednesday against the online giant in a protest over pay. Around 300 staff walked out at Amazon's Coventry warehouse over what they called a derisory 5% pay rise to £10.50 an hour. Workers complained about severe conditions, claiming they are constantly monitored and upbraided for idle time lasting just a few minutes. Two Amazon workers said the robots in the warehouse are, quote, treated better than us, end quote. That's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody-Ann Barrett.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In this evening's Health Report, we'll look at prostate cancer.
They feel I think it's something that is not right to have a finger up the rectum. And
is it uncomfortable?
It shouldn't be really uncomfortable if it's done in the right way. But once that is done and the all clear is given, they're okay for a year.
That's the Health Report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's healthy living tip. Improve your diet, maintain a healthy weight, stop smoking and drink less, and increase your vitamin D.
And now the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the New Zealand-based Alzheimer's Disease International ADI is warning that dementia in the Caribbean is set to rise by 155%, which is nearly 750,000 cases by 2050. According to officials, only 16% of Caribbean countries and territories have made any progress toward developing a national dementia plan. As a result, the ADI is urging the public throughout the Caribbean to urge their governments to take immediate action against dementia. On the international scene, 2 people are dead after a cargo ship capsized off the coast of Japan on Wednesday. However, officials have confirmed that at least 13 crew members were found alive. The cause of the ship's sinking was not immediately known, and there were no signs that it collided with another vessel. The investigation is still ongoing. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, Herman Green will have your midday sports report.